Good morning. I am not usually up at this hour. There was once a very holy man, a rabbi, who studied the mystical books of the Bible. And one day while he was studying, he heard his grandson crying outside. So he closed his book and he went outside to see what was going on. And he asked his grandson why he was crying, and the boy said, "Well, I was playing hide and seek with my friends, and I found a really, really good hiding place. And they looked for me, and they couldn't find me. And they gave up, and they went and played something else. And that's why I'm crying." So his grandfather said to him, "You can learn from this. This is a lesson. Because in this world, God hides himself. And sometimes he hides himself really, really well. He wants us to keep on looking for him even when he can't be found. And when people give up and forget about God and start doing other things, God cries." So for me, one of the places where God is least hidden is in the biology of mothers and their babies. And when I research that and look at the studies, I can't help but be filled with a sense of awe for how we are designed and for the beautiful, beautiful biology that exists between mothers and infants. Now, I don't have to tell all of you here that for those of us that believe that the nuclear traditional family is ideal, we are at war. We're being told that these relationships are the same as this one. Whoops. I lost a slide. There's supposed to be a slide of a regular traditional marriage there.
You can still picture it.
We can still you can picture it, right. You can still, it's getting a little bit hard to do that, but we still remember that. So we're being told that these relationships are the same as a traditional man and woman marriage. We're supposed to believe that in raising children, biological bonds are dispensable, and that children don't need a mother and a father. All they need is love. We're also being asked to believe that pregnancy, the creation of a new person, is like, I don't know, like making a cake, okay? You just throw some ingredients together and you stick them in the oven, and when the time is up, it comes out, and we're supposed to believe that there's no special relationship between the cake in the oven, the mom who carries the child for 9 months, and the baby. That's what we're being asked to believe. So I'm speaking, of course, of surrogacy here. And we're being asked to believe that the children in a family such as this one, Elton John's family, that these children have not lost anyone of any great significance in their lives. They haven't lost anyone that cannot be easily replaced. Yes, the world is stark, raving mad, but I want you all to know that we have a weapon available to us, a very powerful weapon that we are not sufficiently using, and that is the weapon of hard science. It's the perfect weapon because it can't be argued. I mean, you can argue about morality, and people can see things differently when it comes to morality, but you can't argue with what's seen under the microscope or on an MRI. We talk a lot about God, but lots of people don't believe in God, or they interpret his laws differently. It's a matter of opinion. Research in social sciences can be disputed. You can argue with the results, and you can always devise a study that comes up with opposite results, it seems. But in hard science, again, usually you can't argue with that. So I want to give you just a taste today of how hard science supports the natural family as ideal, especially for children and especially for infants. Science shows that the attachment between mother and child is unique and powerful, and that it begins well before birth. And I'm speaking not only about the mother-infant bond, but also the infant-mother bond, the other direction. As you know, pregnancy is nothing like baking a cake. So let's start with a pregnant woman's scent. During pregnancy, a woman produces chemicals with distinct odors that she has never produced before. They are released under her arms and around her nipples. From the first moments of life, a baby recognizes that unique scent, her mother's unique scent. A newborn placed on her mom's abdomen will crawl up toward the source of that scent, up to the breast. But how? And these studies have been controlled. In other words, studies have been done that indicate that it's the scent that she is, or he is, crawling up toward. It's not her voice. It's not some other stimulus. It's the scent. So a newborn child, how does a newborn child who's just arrived in this world recognize his mother's scent? The answer is that he's been swimming in it for 9 months. A woman's amniotic fluid smells and tastes the way that she does. Those aromatic chemicals that she produces during pregnancy that are unique to pregnancy are also present in high concentrations in the amniotic fluid. And the fetal ability to taste develops in the first trimester and early second trimester. So that's quite early. And the olfactory system is unique among the sensory systems because unlike touch and vision, hearing, the olfactory stimuli go directly to the cortex of the brain. So at birth, a mother's unique scent is well known to her baby. She's been floating in it for over 6 months. When separated from their mothers, newborns are soothed by exposure to the odor on a cotton pad of her amniotic fluid. This is a study that was done of newborns, and this device in front of them, what you see here, that device is some cotton balls or gauze that has been soaked in amniotic fluid, and it's placed in front of the child's face. And these children who had the smell of the amniotic fluid placed in front of them cried for significantly shorter periods of time. So this is just one of the many, many items that a child who is immediately removed from the mother that gave birth to them is deprived of this way of being soothed, because no one else has that unique scent that the mother does. It's true in reverse as well. Moms can distinguish the odor of their newborn from that of others. And this is because of pheromones that are released from the baby's head. And when you have the child next to you, those pheromones, you inhale them and you can sense them. Now, I don't know about you, but I have, I love holding new babies, and I will just plead with I have 4 grandchildren, and I just beg them when there's a new baby, please, can I hold the baby? And it's like a drug. I've never been on heroin, but it is like a drug, the smell of that new child. What about a mother's voice? There's very little light that enters the uterus, but there's a lot of sound. What the fetus hears primarily is the mom's voice, the sound of her heartbeat and her aorta, the sound of her GI system. And studies have been done that show that a fetus recognizes his mother's voice in 5 seconds. In this study, a baby's heart rate and activity decreased on hearing his mother's voice. And this was at 36 weeks gestation, indicating that the baby was orienting to her voice, was listening to it. And it's been demonstrated that just a few hours after birth, newborns prefer their mother's voice over the voice of another female. They also prefer their mother's native language. They can recognize the difference between the mom's native language and some other language. It's very fascinating. I'm reading a book by Robert Oscar Lopez, who is someone that you should know about. He is a professor of English at California State University, and he grew up the son of 2 moms, so to speak, his biological mother and her another woman. And he has now become an activist speaking out against children being raised by same-sex couples. Very, very articulate, very bright, and he has so much important stuff to say. So he came out with a book called Jephthah's Daughters, and it's filled with testimonials of now adults who were raised by same-sex couples. Anyway, he reports on a woman who was adopted at birth. And I'm not, please don't get me wrong here, adoption is the most beautiful thing. I'm not saying anything at all. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying anything negative about adoption. I'm simply pointing out that there's an ideal. The ideal is for the child to be able to stay with the mother. So this story in the book Jephthah's Daughter is of a woman whose earliest memory is of beautiful music. But her adoptive parents, they were very wonderful, and she had a great upbringing, but they were not at all musical, and she couldn't understand this earliest memory of hers. Well, at age 30, she located her biological mother. She had been adopted at birth, and her biological mother was a singer. So her memory was actually from being, from before birth, from in utero. and hearing her mother's voice. So science is showing us that the attachment between mother and child is unique and powerful, and that the bonding process starts before birth. We all know how powerful a familiar scent or voice can be, and how one whiff of a familiar, comforting scent or a few words can transport us to a different world. Well, a newborn is jolted into a harsh, new reality of bright lights and loud noises and cold and hunger and pain. And it's not hard to imagine why any reminder of that perfect life that they left behind must be heavenly. So to be able to have your mom's scent right there available to you, and your mom's voice is comforting, and it's good for the child. And I would argue that it's ideal. It's the optimal way to begin life. Is it any wonder that a child cries for their mother day and night and wants to be picked up and held by the mother day and night? What about moms? What about her attachment to the child? Well, there really is such a thing as a mommy brain, but it's not what's portrayed right here. In fact, the changes in the maternal brain due to pregnancy, delivery, and nursing are vast. The brain is triggered to change. The very structure and networking of the brain changes during pregnancy. And these changes make moms more attentive to their young and better at caring for them. It's a remarkable transition. We've all seen it in moms, and I actually saw it in myself, and it's seen in almost all female mammals. That you know, we start off sometimes quite self-absorbed and self-centered, and because of these dramatic hormonal fluctuations and other things that go on during pregnancy, we become focused on the well-being of our child instead of ourselves. There are long-lasting benefits from the maternal brain. During labor and delivery, huge amounts of oxytocin flood the maternal brain, and as you probably know, the hormone causes feelings of love and attachment and trust. There are fantastic studies that have been done in which people were given oxytocin to inhale, and it showed that they were, thank you so much, it showed that they were more likely to trust another person, to actually there was a study done on whether someone is more likely to trust their money with another person if they were given oxytocin or not, and it was shown that yes, there were economists that were doing studies on investment and how do you get people to part with their money and make investments. And these were not biologists and not, you know, maternal fetal kind of people. They were money people, and they put together this very interesting experiment. And they showed that individuals, men and women, that were given a whiff of oxytocin were more likely to trust a stranger with their money. So watch out for that. So all this biology that I'm talking about is very interesting and fun to know, but it's also relevant to many of the debates on social issues that we face right now. Many argue for the new normal, donated eggs, donated sperm, wombs for rent, 2 mothers, 2 fathers. They contend that biological relationships are disposable and that male or female, father or mother, it's all the same to a child. But science says that male and female are unique and that biological relationships are profound and irreplaceable. Here's some of the studies about oxytocin, and here's some of what happens. There's like a beautiful orchestration of hormones that goes on between, well, of oxytocin between mother and child. First of all, the suckling child, the sucking at the breast affects the mother's brain so that she releases more oxytocin. And then that oxytocin causes more of the reflex, the milk letdown reflex, so that more milk is available to the child. Okay, but the milk itself has oxytocin in it. So the child is getting oxytocin and all those benefits of relaxation and trust and attachment for the mother. Is it any wonder, with all these benefits of nursing, some of you have seen this, at any opportunity, a child wants to nurse. I hope this child doesn't develop an attachment for the statue. So, maternal care, aside from nursing, maternal care actually affects brain chemistry into adulthood. And these are studies that were done on rats, but, oh no, in mice, sorry. But, you know, we do have every reason to believe that we could extrapolate these findings onto humans. So in this study, which was done in Germany, it was discovered that the actions of a hormone called NPY, which is the most abundant peptide hormone in the CNS, that its actions depend on how much care and attention mice got from their mothers in the first 3 weeks of life. And NPI, this hormone, NPY, it has a key role in the processes of stress management, the development of anxiety, and body weight regulation. And in those mice that had intensive maternal care in the first few weeks of their life, they had more NPY receptors in their limbic system of the brain, the area that processes emotion. And as a result of that maternal care, animals were less anxious in adulthood, and they weighed more than their counterparts, who experienced little warmth and little security after birth. And there are other studies that show this as well. A mother comforting her infant in pain doesn't just comfort the infant, it also modifies the child's neural circuitry. It changes the child's early brain development. And here's another study that came from NYU. A mother's soothing presence changes the actual gene activity in the infant brain. Now, this unique and essential bond between mother and newborn is acknowledged sometimes when it comes to puppies. There are 17 states that forbid the removal of a puppy from his mother before he reaches 8 weeks of age. To do otherwise is considered inhumane. But here we are, isn't it ironic, that in this country at least, we permit the removal of human babies from their mothers immediately after birth. Now this is a book that you may have heard of, Are You My Mother? So I think that this book is soon going to be illegal and unavailable because it is so politically incorrect. This is the story, a classic book, about a mother bird and her baby. And it starts off when the baby is about to be hatched, and the mom realizes that she doesn't have any food for him. So she flies off to find a worm. And while she's gone, the egg cracks open, and out comes the little baby. And the first thing he asks is, "Where is my mother?" And he walks around looking for her. He comes across a kitten, a hen, a dog, a cow, and he asks each one, "Are you my mother?" And they all say no. And then the bird asks, "Do I have a mother?" And he decides, I do have a mother. I know I do. I will find her. I will. And eventually it gets more and more intense, and he's walking around, and he finds an airplane and a ship, and they're all not his mother, and she's in great distress. And finally he gets back to his nest, and surprise, there's his mother. He's sure about that. And they cuddle together, and she has food for him. And the story is over, and I don't know about your kids and grandkids, but mine are just as happy as can be. So this is a beloved classic, but it may, within a few years, be banned because it's based on these highly controversial ideas. Number one, everyone has a mother. Number two, everyone, especially a baby, has a unique primal connection to his mother. And number three, separation from his mother may lead to wondering where she is, and eventually to searching for her. Now these views are under siege. Those who believe in them are called ugly names. They're considered intolerant and hateful. They're on the wrong side of what's called the biggest civil rights issue of our time. These days, lots of babies are deliberately created based on the planned anonymity of their biological mothers or fathers. And because the Supreme Court decided to redefine marriage, the number of children conceived in this way will surely increase. Well, what of it? We're told that all a child needs is adults who love them. The kids are all right, aren't they? Well, not if you ask the kids, some of the kids themselves. Take a look at some of the sites, the websites they've created called cryokidconfessions.com, searchingformyspermdonor.com, tangledwebs.com, and strangeconceptions.com. Like the chick, these adult children of gamete donors are in distress. They're determined to find their biological parents. I have to find him, they say. I will find her. I will. This woman on the left is Betty Morrell. She's 82 years old. And the woman on her right is Lena Pierce. She's 96. And they met about a month ago at the Greater Binghamton Airport for the first time in 82 years. Betty said, "It was like the beginning of my life. She had been searching for her biological mother for 50 years. Pierce gave birth to Morrell in 1933, when she was only 13 years old. She was a ward of the state. She named her daughter Eva May, and the state of New York took Eva May away from Pierce after 6 months. She was adopted by a family in Long Island, New York, and she grew up as Betty Morrell. She was an only child, and she was told that her birth mother had died. It wasn't until the death of her adoptive mother that the secrets started to reveal themselves. Her aunt slipped and told her that her name used to be Eva and that she was born in Utica. In 1966, Morrell began to actively search for her biological mother. I know I was loved and I had a wonderful family, but there was a missing link. It just kept driving me. So, to make a long story short, and this took many, many years, she finally located her mother, and she found out that she had a sister as well. I've got a mother, she said, I've got a sister. And they found that when the mom was located and told that they had found Eva May, she broke down and started crying. She was crying so much, her granddaughter said, she couldn't even go and play bingo. She was on her way to play bingo when she found out that they had found her daughter. So she ended up meeting her mom and meeting her sister, and she had this automatic connection to her sister, and she said it was just everything I've ever hoped for. And she said she's very grateful for finding her biological family. It's an experience that not many get at my age or my mother's age. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I posted this story on my Facebook page, which, by the way, if any of you have Facebook, please follow me on Facebook. And I posted this saying, you know, that we have to honor biological connections. Biological connections are important. So I got a lot of very upset people answering me. And one of the posts, one of the people answering me said, motherhood has nothing to do with the vehicle or womb that an infant came from. None of us remember that part of life. Gestational surrogacy is a beautiful miracle. Unless anyone has struggled to build a family, there is no right to form an opinion on how we choose to bring children to this world. It's a human right to be a parent, and third-party reproduction is legal. Mind your own business if you haven't walked through the shoes of infertility. So people were very angry about this, and I understand their anger, and I understand their hurt, and I understand that they feel that I'm challenging them and perhaps judging them. All I'm saying is that biological bonds matter. They're very important, and especially when we go into the schools and we have books and material to teach children about families and about parenthood and having children. I object very much to presenting them as, you know, with these, there are all these different options, and they're all equivalent, and it doesn't matter how children are brought into this world. Well, it does matter. It matters very, very much. So I've shown you that a baby is born already, I would say, already loving his mother. He doesn't need to learn to love her. She is not a stranger. In fact, the opposite. She is all he knows. She is his entire universe. He's born that way, to borrow a term. He prefers his mother's scent, his mother's voice, his mother's language. He's comforted by her closeness, her touch, her smell. If that's not love, what is? This is the powerful ammunition that we have to fight the battles out there. Please use this biology when you go out into the world to fight these battles. Thank you very much.